Okay, in this tutorial I'll be showing you how to use Adobe Camera Raw. So first I'll be bringing in the photo that I have taken at Dr. America. So here's the picture of the bangunan Sultan Abdul Samad. Okay, to not waste time, just jump straight to the part that you all will need to actually do before you bring in the raw files into Photoshop. So okay, by default you can just leave everything here. Unless you need to do tweak, you can just play around with the settings here. Pretty much the word will say what is the function it will do. So vibrance, it will become much more vibrant. Saturation, it increases saturation. It might be similar to vibrant, but just play around with it. So what I want you to do is that first you go to the, in this case, the lens correction tab. So okay, as I mentioned in the class before, one of the things that you need to really vary is that the chromatic aberration, which is usually noticeable as when you take a wide angle shot. So again, if you take in raw format, the good part is that you have the opportunity to actually control how much to actually do you need to control or remove the chromatic aberration. So by clicking here, checking here, you can see there's a big difference in the picture quality. So yeah, usually by default you want to just leave the default setting. Is pretty good. You will just play around with these sliders and you get the correct look, as correct as you can go. So okay, for the next step is, after you've done with the chromatic aberration, is to make sure, let me set to fit in view. Okay, now we already have this picture. Remember, the wider the angle, the lens, often there's a higher chance for better distortion. So better distortion means that the photo that you taken, due to the lens, it actually start to curve. This is like, it's not really like a straight line you see in real life. So what you want to do is to enable in this setting. Okay, once enabled, you can see there's a huge difference. It looks like the picture start to, it's straighten up much more better compared before we enable the settings. So you can see a before and after, before, after. Okay, most of the time if you use the bundle kit lens that come together with your DSLR, those lenses, they actually have a chip on it that will help to tell the camera that what is the profile and also the details of the lens that you actually shot. So here we can see that Adobe Camera managed to detect and read the request information, the embedded information. So yeah, if let's say in case the thing failed to read, you can actually come here and start selecting. You can see there's a wide variety of manufacturer here, like Canon, Fujifilm, Sony, Nikon, Samsung, etc, etc. So okay, once you set here, you can just leave the default setting here for the correction amount at both value 100 for distortion and vignetting. I leave this information to you guys to look online, because if I want to explain it here, will take quite some time to really explain the full the concept behind distortion and vignetting. So the final step before you open up the whole image in Photoshop is to go to the detail tab and see there's a noise reduction. Look for the noise reduction. So okay, for here to demonstrate the setting, let me zoom into 20%. Okay, you will notice that whenever you take any photo, we will have these kind of noisy patterns. So this noisy pattern is due to the ISO sensitivity of the sensor. So like DSLR, they try to usually I would call like mimic like real life traditional photography, where the higher the ISO, the more sensitive to light, and of course the more sensitive the ISO, it will also lead to a much more noticeable grain. But of course, when we deal with digital format, is known as noise compared to grain. So again, in here if you take the photo in RAW, this is the good part, is that we can click how much noise reduction we can actually apply compared to if you leave it to the default firmware algorithm from your camera. So if you do bump up the value here, you can see this, the noisy pattern is already reduced significantly compared to before. And now if I just bump it to 70 after, okay, before, after, a lot of difference. But of course, again, if we talk about noise reduction, it means that there's a higher chance some of your picture, the details, it will get softened up. So again, for your assignment, I'm not so concerned with this, because as I said in the class, if you take it at your maximum sensor size, if you can see here, the details is 17.9 megapixel, which is pretty close to the 550D specification, which Canon claimed at 18.1 megapixel. So if you take a really high resolution, again, most of the time we do not use the exact the full size picture, because we might reduce it. We resize the picture, the make painting, to a much more lower size. Maybe it can be up to full HD or maybe slightly bigger. It depends on the scope of the project. Maybe some might need that much detail because you're going to do a camera panning, or can be a dolly in camera movement, which will means it translates to a camera zoom, zooming in. So yeah, once you already set all these things, I will leave again as usual all this setting to you guys to explore. So once you're done, don't just click done here. If you click done, it's more of like you saving a JPEG copy. Not really save a JPEG copy. What Camera Raw do, you will save like a small information that will tell how the picture is actually being processed. So again, once you're already done with all the necessary correction, just click open image, and yeah, you already have your process raw images inside Photoshop. So again, this concludes the tutorial. Wish you guys the best of luck in doing this make painting, and happy photoshopping. See you again next time.